This is a video about how I got my Raptor 700R, or as Twinkles calls it, Bruiser. It all started with a Craigslist ad, and I saw an ad that said 2008 Raptor 700 SE, runs but needs TLC. The pics were pretty bad in the ad. The pics were in a garage behind some other quads. I could see there was no graphics on the quad. It looked like it had been stripped down. It just had some really dirty black fenders with some blurry pictures. It didn't say if it came with a title or not. It seemed kind of fishy, but for $2,500 I was willing to take a chance, so I wrote him anyhow. There was no phone number, and I just wrote him an email and asked if he had the pink slip or not, and if he still had it for sale. I didn't get a call back until the next day, and he wrote me back and said that he still had it and he did have the title and I could come look right now if I was interested. So I called him up and I got his address and I drove down there, and the first thing I noticed, the quad just looked really sorry shape. The fenders weren't really on very well. The tires were pretty flat. A couple of them were bald. He was having to jump start it because the battery was dead. When he did get it started, it didn't run very well. It wouldn't idle, and when it revved up, it was like smoking and stuff. When I did get to take it for just a quick spin around his little neighborhood there, the brakes were sticking really bad and the front brakes weren't working at all. It was just really hard to steer. Like, you couldn't turn the stem very easily, and I could see that the exhaust was leaking in the middle and it was just really rusted up looking. He told me he got it for a trade-in on some repairs he'd done to a customer's boat at his marine shop. He didn't have time to mess with it. He just wanted to get rid of it. He already had an ATV, a Honda 4x4 Foreman that he really liked, and he just wanted to keep riding that. So after haggling back and forth, I talked him down from $2,500, and he said for $2,000 cash, it's yours. And I said, okay, I'll take it home. So at this point, basically, I had a running Raptor 700 that I knew needed a lot of work. I just wasn't really sure exactly what all it needed yet. So I got it home and I immediately started taking it apart. I took the fenders all off and everything, started taking it down to just basically the frame to see what all it needed. The first thing I noticed about the air filter, it looked like someone had basically taken the air filter off, buried it in a hole, dug it back up again, and then installed it back directly onto the four-wheeler. It was just caked with mud inside and out. The K&N filter, just total neglect, lack of maintenance. I cleaned the gas tank out. I took it completely off, removed it, took all the gas out. The gas that was in there had sticks and leaves and various other debris just floating in the tank. The bad steering stem became pretty apparent as soon as I took the fenders off. You could see that the steering stem had a nice bend to it. The front wheel bearings were completely bad. The wheels wouldn't even stay perfectly lined up, just sitting under its own weight. And the ball joints as well were all blown out. It wouldn't turn correctly. And then from someone riding it with the ball joints and the bearings all bad, it had basically destroyed the front brake calipers, because the front brake calipers were essentially kind of holding the wheels on straight, and those had the pins inside had worn grooves inside the calipers. So pretty much just needed the whole front end completely rebuilt, in addition to getting the motor tuned up. The first thing I wanted to do though was just to see if it was going to even run right. So I started taking apart the throttle body and the housing for all of the air filter and cleaning it all out, just seeing if I could get it running good first. This is just a shot of what the inside of your fuel tank looks like. This is the fuel pump mechanism that sits and rides down inside the Raptor 700 fuel tank. These are some shots I took of the throttle body housing, just kind of showing how all the wires and hoses and things go back together, just for reference when I was putting it all back together. I like to take a lot of pictures when I'm taking things apart so that I can just reference them. They're just, sometimes it's more helpful than looking at it in a black and white diagram. I'm not going to go over every single connection in this video, because this video would just be too long. But here are a bunch of pictures of the throttle body when I took it off, how dirty it was. And then here's a picture of how it looked when I got done. and had it all nice and cleaned up and ready to put back on the quad. There is a procedure that you go through to kind of adjust the throttle body, throttle position sensor. And so if you're going to ever go through this ordeal where you have to take it off, remove it completely and clean it, remember that you need to set the gap in the throttle body mechanism. It has to be at just the right spot, and it cannot be set completely closed. You do need to leave a little bit of a gap there. And like I said, there's a method that you go through that I won't go through in this video, but there is a mechanism to reset the throttle position sensor, the TPS sensor. I replaced the rear grab bar with this grab bar by PRM Products. You can find their grab bars on eBay and also on their website, prm-atv.com. They have bumpers and skid plates and also other grab bars like the 6-pack rack. The one I have is called the Baja grab bar. So the stock exhaust was in some terrible shape. It was just really rusted up, and it was leaking, and it was just, you know, the stock exhausts are really heavy. They're not a very well designed exhaust. The first thing I usually do is always put an aftermarket exhaust. So I found this one on one of the forums. I think it was on the Raptor HQ forum. It was a Trinity stage 4 exhaust, and the guy only wanted $150 with the programmer. So it had some issues. One of the bolts was loose or broke off, I can't remember, but I took it all apart and fixed it up, got some new hardware to bolt it back together, stripped off all the rust and dirt and everything, and got it all nice and silver again, and then I coated it with some of this clear, high temp clear. Painted the can black and did some blue accents on there with high temp, VHT high temp paint. And I thought it came out pretty good. It definitely sounds a lot better, a lot more open and louder exhaust. I put a little screen in there so it would have a spark arrestor. And yeah, after that, once I got that on there, it was all set up and running. So at this point, I had a running Raptor. It would idle, it would rev clean through the range of the RPMs. You know, just basically I could tell that this was going to be a good strong running motor that I didn't need to tear completely apart and rebuild before I did anything else. So I was good at this point to move on to you know, some of the other issues with the chassis and the controls and the steering. And so I did want to take it for a test ride first, just to see kind of how it handled with the setup the way it was. So even though the Raptor is a 2008, which is a special edition, someone at some point had put the shocks off of a non-R Raptor on there, and so it was missing the shocks with the reservoirs and the adjustments, and I really wanted that back. So I went on eBay and I found a used set of Raptor 700R shocks with the adjustments on them that I liked. I replaced the seat cover with a gripper style seat cover from HTMOTO. They have some great seat covers. I got mine in black with the white stitching. This is their website, HTMOTO.us, and they sell all different types of seat covers, from street bikes to cruisers to ATVs and UTVs, pretty much any kind of seat cover that you could ever ask for. They also sell gel inserts where you can take some of your foam and cut it out of your seat and replace that with some really nice squishy gel. And so you might want to check them out. Again, that's HTMOTO.us. I painted the hood with a metal flake called Ocean Blue from Dupli. I also topped that off with a clear coat. Before I painted the whole thing though, I did prime it first with some adhesion promoter from the same company, also from Dupli. So this is a picture of it when I had it all back together and running, but I still had the front suspension on there, the stock front suspension. So the first thing I noticed when I took it for a ride was that the fan would kick on and then it would kick off immediately. It never did spin the way it was supposed to be spinning, where it would kick on and you could hear the fan come on and stay on like it had, you know, with my YFZ450 or other electronic fan quads. So I ordered a YFZ450 fan off of eBay, and I replaced the Raptor 700 fan with this YFZ450 fan. Here's some LED headlights that I got from oxbeam.com. These are some great lights for the cost. They're really bright. It wasn't very hard to make a little bracket that would bolt right onto the Raptor 700. Here's some shots of the LED headlights bolted up and mounted in my garage. Again, they're really bright and a huge improvement over the stock headlights. If you're having some issues maybe with the bulbs, or if you're having some trouble with the housing, which is what was wrong with mine, the previous owner, the person had basically screwed the housings on with wood screws and they were coming loose, and you can see they tried to fix it with some zip ties, but they were still just falling off. So I wanted to replace the stock housing completely, and these LED lights with just a couple of little angle brackets, I was able to bolt these right on. So it's a great solution. These LED lights, again from oxbeam.com, really helped out. And so if you're looking for some LED lights, these are definitely some good lights to check out. They're very low cost light. If you do go on oxbeam.com and purchase some LEDs, be sure to use the code TRAIL for your purchase of anything over $40. Any purchases of over $40, you'll get 5% off your order. Previous owner, at some point it looked like they had thrown the chain and it had busted one of the mounts where you would normally put a case saver. I really always like to run a case saver, so I found this solution online, again on the Raptor HQ forum. There's this mount that you can basically add that allows you to mount a case saver if you've already thrown your chain and busted the mounts where they normally go. This adds a little plate and then you mount your case saver to that. So this is a pretty awesome solution. I'll post a link in the description below. For my air intake, I'm using a Pro Flow adapter by Pro Design. This allows me to clamp a typical pod filter on without having to replace the entire intake. For tires, I'm running the Maxxis Razor 2s in the front. They've held up really well so far with no flats. They grip really well in the corners, provide excellent handling. In the rears, I'm running Kenda Bear Claws. These are a super aggressive 6-ply tire. They have great traction in deep snow and mud, as well as clearance in the rocks. I couldn't figure out at first what was wrong with the brakes, and I tried replacing the front brake master cylinder to see if I could get the brakes to work better that way. But after trying and failing, replacing the master cylinder, and it didn't make any change, I just couldn't get the front brakes to pressurize. I realized that there was a problem inside of the calipers themselves. At that point, I decided to go ahead and toss aside the damaged calipers and replace them with some used calipers that I found on eBay for relatively cheap. I replaced the old worn out sprockets with new ones by GYTR and a new chain by Caltrick, both of which were purchased from eBay. I replaced my clutch plates and springs with a kit by Tusk Off-Road. These are a good kit. I've used them in the Banshee before and they lasted really well, even up to the abuse that I put them through. So go ahead and check them out. They're available through Rocky Mountain ATV or also on eBay as well. I drained all of the radiator fluid out and replaced it with Prestone pre-diluted 50/50. I replaced the old oil with Valvoline 10W40 ATV wet clutch friendly oil. I replaced the bad wheel bearings and steering stem bearings with new ones from All Balls Racing. Since I couldn't find one in stock on eBay anywhere, I ordered the steering stem from Ready Yamaha Sea-Doo, and they had it for me in just a couple of days. So after the first test ride, it was pretty obvious that the front end was just completely shot, and I was going to need new ball joints and new tie rods and everything. It was just a matter of not being able to steer. The tires weren't sitting correctly, the brakes were dragging, just everything was out of alignment. I found a great deal on a set of Team Alba extended A-arms. They bolted right on. I didn't have to modify the frame or anything like that. They came with replaceable ball joints, so in the future if I ever did want to replace the ball joints, I don't have to replace the whole arm like you would have to do with the stock Raptor 700 arms. Since they're a little bit wider, they provided a better stance and a better overall ride. They really softened up the ride since it gives the front end more leverage. The shocks, I had them adjusted a little bit more stiff to accommodate for the longer arms, and they really worked well together. They're definitely a great aftermarket A-arm. If you're looking for something to replace your stock A-arms, either you want to go wider or if your ball joints are bad, I would look into the Team Alba Racing extended A-arms for the Raptor 700. These are the standard travel. I wanted to keep my stock shocks for now, but they also sell a long travel edition, which is more of a gull wing design if you're looking to go long travel on the front of your Raptor, if you're building like more of a dooner or something like that. So that's the story of how we got Bruiser and how we rebuilt it to get it back on the trail again. I hope you all have enjoyed watching. Please keep an eye out for more Trail Blogger videos coming soon.